You know, it seems like everybody who gets elected president wants to get elected president again, as miserable as that job seems like it must be. And I thought that this episode of Right Angle with Steve Green and Bill Whittle and myself, Scott Ott, should focus on what President Trump is going to do with the final 12 years of his presidency. We just want to thank the members at BillWhittle.com for making this possible. Bill, in 12 more years, as President Trump has encouraged his followers to chant, he actually has released, or at least his campaign
the ultimate troll
has released. Somebody posted on one of our YouTube videos, by the way, and said that he loved it when President Trump wanted people to chant 8 more years. And I corrected him and said, no, it was 12. But in any case, the Trump campaign has released something like 50 bullet points under various subheadings like the economy and foreign policy and COVID-19 about things that he wants to do with his next term, including drain the globalist swamp by taking on international organizations that hurt Americans and teach American exceptionalism. Bill, if you are going into this second term, realizing that you pretty much only have a very short window before everybody's focused on the 2024 election, what would you like to see accomplished during the second Trump administration?
I'd like to see the Department of Justice break up the tech giants.
Really? Such an anti-competitive, anti-business kind of thing coming from the mouth of a conservative.
No, it's an anti-fraud kind of thing. It's
Sherman antitrust.
Pardon me?
A Sherman antitrust action here.
No, it's not that at all. It's a violation of the fundamental legal protections that these companies have been operating under. They are calling themselves carriers. That means they're not responsible for the content that they put on, because if they were responsible, every time anybody cut a clip from the latest video game or something and ran it on YouTube, there would be a copyright issue against YouTube. So they're claiming to be carriers. Carriers are not editors. They don't provide editorial content. They don't make any. They simply say, hey, we're just putting it up there, But they're not. They're editorializing. They determine what goes up, what doesn't. They pull people they don't like. They pull content they don't like. They demonetize people, and most importantly, they selectively suppress videos in a way that there's no way to prove other than to say, well, our viewership goes up, and then YouTube makes adjustment, it goes down, and it's up again, and it gets good. Without question, it's the greatest danger to the republic. The information that we get now from the internet inside the frame, as I like to say, and the people who control what we see are not our friends, and they're not friends of freedom either. And in fact, their actual, what's the word I'm looking for? Their ideology is really pretty far out there. Yeah, so there's no question in my mind. I would do that. Absolutely. I'd do it before I built the wall. I would do it. I'd do it before I investigated
what do you think
Hillary
we'd
Clinton.
see if he accomplished that? Let me follow up on that question, because what do you think would happen as a result? How would our lives be different if he actually broke up these big social media companies?
Well, this video would be seen by a whole lot more people, like 20 or 30 times more people. And we would no longer live in a world where we are making choices that are being controlled by other people without our knowledge. And that's the genius of what they do. They don't say you can't do that. They just make sure that the option that you might have chosen is not available to you. That's how it works. It's not that they ban BillWhittle.com. They just make sure that the videos don't go out to the people who subscribe to them, and they take people off the subscriber list. And they don't say, well, Scrappleface is got to be deleted. They just make sure that you show up on page 5 of the search results, and people almost never go past page 1 and certainly never past page 2. And that's how they have the editorial control that does not that negates their carrier status. It makes them a publisher, and therefore they're committing fraud. They have the benefits, the legal protections of a carrier, and at the same time, they have the editorial decision-making of a publisher. And I think that they should have to pick one or the other.
Yeah. Scott, can I throw something in on that? Companies are supposed to be, especially consumer-fronted companies like Google, are supposed to be able to be pressured by consumers, even if it's just the simple act of not doing business with them. It is impossible to use the internet. In other words, it is impossible to live in the 21st century and not use Google. A year or two ago, there was a young tech writer, I've forgotten her name, who decided to do an experiment and completely divorce herself from Google. No more Gmail, no more Android phone, nothing. And so she had a tech friend of hers build her a VPN, a virtual private network server, that blocked all 118,000, I think it was, Google IP addresses on her laptop, her desktop, her phone, everything she used that had an internet connection. And as a result, it literally broke the internet. She couldn't call an Uber because they use Google Maps. A ton of sites wouldn't display because they use Google's knockoff but free web fonts. Nothing worked anymore. So as a consumer, you are forced. You have to do business with Google, whether you want to or not, if you want to live in this century. And as a result, consumers no longer have any pressure on that company, and they can do whatever the hell they want, and that's got to stop.
For our viewers that want more information about the little research project Steve just referenced, Bing it. So, Steve, as we get to
go.
That's not a thing. Bing it is apparently not a thing. No. Steve, among the other things that President Trump's second-term agenda included were 10 million new jobs in the first 10 months, 1 million new small businesses, tax cuts, reining in more regulation, no federal contracts for companies who outsource to China, and bring back 1 million manufacturing jobs from China. Stephen Green, this doesn't have to be your agenda, but there's a long laundry list here, and maybe he'll get to accomplish some of that. But if you just had to focus on one or two things, what would you want to get done in this second Trump administration?
Basically, what he's talking about is the natural result of a V-shaped recovery. We started to see signs of that back in April and May when the states started to loosen up the COVID-19 restrictions. And then in the big Democrat-run states, they slapped them back down. Texas did a little bit too. And that V-shaped recovery got truncated. Now we're kind of in this trough. We've got to come flying back. If we can get these damn restrictions lifted, it is going to be 10 million jobs in 10 months. It's going to be way more than 1 million new small businesses. A lot of those are going to be the same businesses that have been shuttered for 6 months because of this damn shutdown. So this is... Most of what he's talking about is what the natural result of what the economy wants to do when it isn't shackled. That's all this is, and it's dressed up in the red meat language that presidents campaign on and should campaign on.
Well, there's so much on this list that is admirable and things that Republicans have been trying to accomplish for years. We'll try to provide a link in the description below so you can see the full list. It's an interesting way of rolling this out. I mean, normal politicians, so to speak, would probably have given a great big speech where they would have, 7 subheadings with long laundry lists under each one. It's kind of like a State of the Union address. These are all the things we want to accomplish in the second term. My guess is that the president's campaign is just going to kind of throw this out there, and then the president's going to keep doing what he's been doing in public statements and really not focus on policy. The thing that keeps Trump alive, though, for a lot of people who are put off by his manner, is the fact that there has been a steady, rolling series of accomplishments in his administration. Everything from foreign policy with regard to Israel and the Middle East, for example, to appointments of conservative judges, to rolling back of regulations, to cutting of taxes, to justice reform that he signed together in a bipartisan manner with Democrats. So those are the things that don't make the big headlines on a daily basis. But those are the things that make a president. And those are the things that are going to last long beyond the time when people can remember how they felt when they heard Donald Trump speak. They're going to remember how the country was made differently. And if anything, for the second term, what I'd like to see is a continued doubling down on and focus on getting these things done. He doesn't have to do it publicly. He doesn't have to do it with a big show. He doesn't have to brag about it. He just needs to return, as Bill often says, to return this constitutional republic back to the original packaging, put it back in the box that it came in. And you know, if you've ever unwrapped anything, getting something back into the box, it can be the biggest challenge of all. But if we can get even close, we will find that these incremental process improvements make all the difference, and no one single person gets all the credit for it, but the whole country enjoys the benefit. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making Right Angle possible.